very difficult conversations in terms of solutions for boys and young men of color. But here's the problem, right? We continue to push this conversation and we're seeing very little changes in terms of high level engagement. And so we have to continue to have these conversations. Why? Is because we continue to have problems and issues. Let's be honest about it. Got some good news that I wanted to share. We just opened up our CHAMPS virtual camp this Monday. And a couple weeks ago, you heard my heart when I talked about one of our CHAMPS mentees turned mentors was shot on the south side of Chicago 4 times, right? Went into the hospital, had multiple surgeries. And the great news, he's been on every single CHAMPS virtual camp call this week. And so this has given me hope that we have some answers. We have some testimonies that we want to be able to share and give to you to let you know that the power of mentorship is still at work. And so I am delighted on tonight to co-host with my brother, the Endurer, Reverend Tony Briscoe. Come on in, good brother.
Legacy. Sometime in 2014, a friend asked me how many more young black men are going to die while you chase corporate dollars. I had no answer then, and I have no answer now, torn between nonprofit that pays no profit but heavenly rewards that are great, or living this tech life where at least I get to pay rent, food, shelter, and take care of my family properly. While still posting on Facebook and Twitter, the violence, when will it stop? And that same question came back to my mind. How many more young black men are going to die while you chase corporate dollars? You think it'd be enough to make me holler, but the blood that melts concrete red yells even louder because the color is not the paint that it came with. And in essence, I am no different from the hustler. See, they seek to make fast cash while I work 60 to 70 hours a week just to fill my tank with gas to go back into a repetitive cycle of nothingness, working for an employer that tries to convince me that it's for the kids while at the same time I'm neglecting my own. And the hustler has a corner. And it's just a place for his customers where he meets and greets until someone else comes along and creeps in to snatch his life away. And after returning home from a 17-hour workday at 10 p.m., I drive past yellow tape where there are flowers and a teddy bear and police officers and detectives and a sheet and a news crew and a reporter and some no-teeth, nappy-braided character yelling in the camera. They didn't have to dig my man like this. Ironically, there are no eyewitnesses. Just news of another Negro dead because African American is for the politically correct. Another young person I didn't reach. Another young person with whom I refused to speak, and another one I refused to teach because his look was menacing. And though I fear no man, I have no time for drama. And maybe that's what his dad said when his teenage mother, before she told him she was pregnant, he said, I have no time for drama, and he left twice. And the first time was walking away. And the second one left an impression on a young black male that he was worthy of no man's love. And that filled him with hate and rage. And he thought that he deserved no man's love. And this cycle continues in my hood, in my city, where it's too expensive to move and it's too costly to stay for your well-being. And there is no hero, just old black politicians who, for the sake of power, would rather stay in office in their cancer-ridden bodies than train up someone younger than them because for fear, they think that somebody might just be better at them than this. And I fear for the sake of comfort, I have left a generation paralyzed without hope. And as surely as history repeats itself, heroin is the new crack. And while black women are the heroines in our community because they realize that if no man will stand up, that they will raise the flag all by themselves if they have to. Yes, Martin and Malcolm led the movement, but women infused it. There hails Tony Briscoe, a great technology leader, living in his Highland Park home, who just made the cover of Times Magazine, Technology Leaders of Today, while one of the young men he failed to mentor just made the cover of the Chicago Tribune. Wanted, triple homicide, legacy. Ladies and gentlemen, greeting. It is your boy, Tony Briscoe, the Endurer. I am playing co-host tonight. And I'm playing co-host because we have a spectacular young man with us on tonight. His name is Brandon Pope. He is a journalist who's passionate about covering news, issues that Chicagoans care about the most. Brandon is a board member of the Chicago chapter of the National Association of Black Journalists, where he focuses on shepherding in the next generation of TV reporters. Brandon's mentorship experience also includes Big Brothers, Big Sisters. His work has taken him around the country and beyond the states, covering the 2012 and 2016 presidential elections, the 2012 London Summer Olympic Games, the Indy 500, college football, PGA Tour, as well as NFL and NBA playoffs. Outside his career, Brandon also appears on podcasts and radio programs to discuss topics ranging from superhero films to The Bachelor. Brandon is a proud Ball State University graduate and journalism alumni board member, but that does not stop him from rooting for his Ohio State Buckeyes along with other Ohio sports teams. He's always tweeting. If you've got news tips for Brandon, want to share a funny meme, or suggest a food place to eat, send him a tweet at bpopetv. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Brandon Pope, who will be our moderator for the night, and he will lead the introduction of our other guests. Thank you for your time, Brandon. We're excited to have you.
Well, thank you, and I'm excited to be a part of this esteemed panel and this amazing platform. I'm humbled to be a part of it, honestly, and I'm ready to have a really powerful conversation. And hopefully we can just decide and inspire some action through it. I appreciate the Ohio State Buckeyes reference there, but my life has been, how do I put this? I've lived my life the way I wanted my life to be impacted, right? I grew up in a single parent home. My father died when I was very young. And I needed men to step up in my life, Black men to step up in my life. And many did. Uncles, my grandpa, cousins, friends of my mom, things like that, stepped up and filled that void. Big Brothers, Big Sisters, the Boys and Girls Club. And so I'm passionate about doing that for others because I know how much it meant to me and why I am where I am today. And that's because I had those positive Black males in my life, and there were solutions there for me. There was opportunity there for me. And if it wasn't there for me, who knows what could have happened. So we're trying to find ways to seek opportunity for other young Black men and brown men around our city and around the country. So let's start with our introduction to this panel and see who we got here. Let's start with Jermaine.
Well, good evening. I am Jermaine Lawrence Anderson, the founder and executive director for I Am a Gentleman Incorporated. And I am so excited to be a part of this platform on tonight, this conversation, and most of all, this meeting of the minds. I Am a Gentleman Incorporated is a male mentoring and leadership development organization which serves young men ages 13 to 21 here in Chicago. We also have works in Las Vegas, Nevada, Northwest Indiana, and Atlanta, Georgia. And we are so passionate about the work that we're called to do because we don't believe that the young men we serve are our future. We certainly believe that the young men that we serve are our present and our now. And they have so much to give, so much to offer. And even though in this work that I'm called to be the leader or I'm called to be the mentor, it's amazing to see how much I have learned from the students we serve. And again, I'm just so excited to be a part of this great platform on tonight. And I hope that after this conversation on tonight, we will see some change and that we will see our generation move into a greater level of success.
Going in the order that I see people on my screen, so it may be different to others. Joshua Morris.
Thank you, Brandon. My name is Joshua Morris. I am a licensed professional counselor, a certified professional and Christian life coach. I'm a law enforcement professional, a youth mentor and speaker. Recently, I started a YouTube channel and podcast. You can find out more information about me at jmlifecoach.com and on IG at jmlifecoach. Also, I am the chairman of the board of directors for AJ Materials, a construction company as well. I'm just happy to be here. Bondell is a good friend of mine, and I love what he's doing in his mentoring program. He invited me out and let me speak to his boys. He's come out and speak to my boys in the community where I serve, and I'm just a brother in arms with him when it comes to this mentoring thing, and any way I can be of support or help, I'm here to do that.
Happy to have you on board there, Joshua. Demetrios, what's up, man?
Hello, my name is Demetrios Underwood. I am an alum from Gary Carmer College Prep. I also reside in Chicago, Illinois. I attend Morehouse College. I'm a sociology major. I am also a Mellon Mays Research Fellow, in which my research discusses topics of Black gender and sexuality, Black queerness, and sexual assault.
Last but not least, Jamal.
Thank you, Brandon. What's up, beautiful people? I am Jamal Bogle. I'm an educator, been in education the past 13 years. I'll be in Kip Tulsa, Vondale's old stopping grounds this upcoming year. I'm also founder of Seymour Academy, which is a nonprofit organization that partners with schools by providing non-traditional learning experiences, and also founder of the Fruitful Lifestyle LLC, which is all about the empowerment of Black Indigenous people of color through education, economics, and engagement. I have a podcast called The 44 Lifestyle that drops every Monday. Free plug for that. So find me on Apple Podcasts and Spotify.
Right. Well, let's get started, guys. I want to start with what Vondale was talking about and referencing. Children are hurting right now in our city. So many people are hurting in our city. We're seeing record violence in Chicago, or near record violence. That is, we're on pace for records. Our young men are often the shooters or are being shot. So when we see this stuff happening, what is not connecting? And what can we do to end this? And this is, anyone can jump in here. This one's open-ended.
I think that we can't, with this problem, it's usually reduced to a Black on Black crime. And we can't have that scope because that produces anti-Blackness. We have to realize that the reason that these crimes exist, in which we need to question crime in itself, upon when we are referring to Black people, because to be born is to already be a criminal. And I think that now we need a conversation around how do we handle this in the best way, probably without policing, which Black boys, Black men, and Black people in general are dying because of police and also because violence in our community. But that violence is also produced through white supremacy. To be in an environment with no resources, to have no education, to have these things that you're not able to like get out of. You're in an environment where it's a survival. So you commit crimes such as robbery, which now you're labeled as a criminal and you get to receive a felony, you can't get a job. And these things can't be a scope of just Black on Black crime. We have to look at it and what is the connection with it, and what is that connection? It's usually a typical connection to slavery. And we have to create a broad way of thinking so that it won't be just blamed on a Black, the next Black man or the next Black person. Because there's a reason to everything. There's a reason that crime exists. There's a reason that death is happening. And I would say that every Black death is always linked to white supremacy. And it's just how can we examine that? That's the first step before a solution. And I feel like the solution is not policing, because policing, as we've known for years, in carceral institutions, hurt Black men, kill Black men, promote Black death. So there needs to be a mutual aid. There needs to be something without policing, is what I propose.
This issue of policing, it's a complicated one. It's a discussion that we've had, and it's really risen to the surface here, I should say, within the mainstream white public consciousness. We've been talking about this, right? But it's finally reaching, I hate to say trending, but it's reached the top of the Twitter feeds, right? And people are finally openly talking about things like defund the police and talking about having cops in schools and what the impact of that is. Anyone else here, when you see the violence happening in our city and what's going on, what does that make you think about how we as Black men need to step in here?
Yeah, Brandon, I think about the youth and the disconnect that's going on right now with the youth, and a couple of things come to mind. Lack of leadership and lack of wise and righteous leaders. John Maxwell said it like this, leadership rise and falls. I mean, things rise and fall on leadership. So I just want to give this little definition right here. 2 basic competencies for good leadership, according to my philosophy, is the ability to protect and provide, is safety and sustenance. Maslow's hierarchy of need. If you cannot provide safety and sustenance, if you can't provide protection and provision, then you're not a good leader. You're not going to be able to provide excellent leadership. And our black men, young men right now in the city of Chicago and even around the country in our urban communities, they're not safe. They don't feel safe. They don't feel protected, and they don't feel provided for. They don't feel cared for. And I think a lot of our issues in our community are due to these 2 things. And I would submit to you that when you look at protection and provision in my humble opinion is the first step of protection. If you can't provide for someone, it doesn't matter. Now they got to go out and go into guerrilla mode to provide for themselves. So I think that 2 issues we need to deal with is a lack of leadership in our community and a lack of wise and righteous leaders. We need leaders that stay out of jail. We need leaders that don't steal from our people. We need Black churches to stop taking 10% of the money from single family homes. If you got a single woman that's got 3 kids and she's trying to decide between 10% and getting kids school book bags, that's a problem for me. They come and see me in my office and I tell them, listen, take half of that 10%, take 5%. I want you to go buy him clothes this year so you don't have to go to the drug boy. And you know what they tell me? I can't do that, God forbid. I can't sit with that. I'm sorry. We got to do better at financially taking care of our kids and making them feel, these young men, making them feel that they're accepted and protected.
100%, Joshua. Jermaine, I'd love to get your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I agree with everything that has been said so far. One of the things that I would add to it is that I believe that our Black young men, specifically boys of color, they are hopeless. They have no hope. I can remember giving a talk many years ago, probably about 8 years ago now, and it was in a student setting in a middle school. And I had asked a question to the class, what do you want to be when you grow up? And, we had some students raise their hands, some were saying teachers, others were saying engineers. But there was this one young man that raised his hand that I'll never forget. It just left an imprint upon my soul. And he said, Brother Jermaine, I want to be alive. And I had never heard of anything like that before. He said, I want to be alive. And it's amazing that our young men unfortunately become the product of their environment. I can remember when our former President Obama was campaigning, he had a slogan that was a part of his campaign that I'll never forget. I just thought it was so profound. He said, we cannot be what we cannot see. And I think those of us who are called to mentoring and mentorship and to leadership, and those of us who are called to greater levels in life, we must be those examples. And not only must we be those examples, we must transmit to the generation that's coming behind us. I'm in a setting where so many people, call my name all day long, Brother Jermaine this or Mr. Anderson this. And, while they may or may not be giving me accolades to a certain degree, it's a shame if the ones that I'm impacting are not receiving those same types of accolades that I'm receiving. They should be better than I am because of what I've deposited into them and what I've given back to them. So it doesn't matter if my life is great. If those who are coming behind me, if their life is not just as great or even greater, then the work that I'm doing, it has no merit or no value.
Profound there, very profound. Jamal, any thoughts here?
Yeah, I think from an educational standpoint, like the disconnect, so that disconnect happens in schools because we're as educators, we're trying to maneuver within a broken system, right? And you'll never be able to fully connect with our youth within a broken system. You'll have outliers for sure that happen by chance, but you won't. That's not the norm. You'll never fully connect within a system that our Black girls and our Black boys are criminalized. That our Black girls and our Black boys are invisible to stereotypes and test scores. So you'll never be able to fully connect with kids. You'll never be able to fully empower them. It's because it's a system that sees them through a deficit model. It sees them as something that needs to be fixed based off of this like colonized mindset that judges actions as either good or bad or acceptable or unacceptable. Like, oh, Aaliyah, she talks back. She challenges authority. That's not acceptable. It's so disrespectful. I'm kicking her out of my class. Or Jamal, he won't sit down and read. He must have a disability. There must be something wrong with him. He has ADHD, or quick, let's get in this IEP. So it just fosters this narrative that our Black girls and our Black boys need to be fixed or saved, right? That's the mindset. That's the same mindset that brought on the school to prison pipeline. That's the mindset of structure, kids need structure and discipline, suspensions, expulsions, and law and order, right? It sounds like the same rhetoric that 45 is saying right now, but that's not true. It feeds off of too, like your white savior complex, where you have in a lot of these white teachers will come in and like, oh, these poor Black kids, we need to save them. And I just need to give all of the talents that I have and come in, if I could just teach them and how to assimilate like that. All of those are broken concepts that further just deep business in this broken system. So I think when we talk about solutions around that, especially within education, like we have to do our part in dismantling the system. We can't just settle for educational reform anymore. We have to really dismantle the system. Like what are our policies and our practices and mindsets that we value that influence what goes on in schools? Like why do we have test scores? What is this achievement gap that we've constructed? Why do we still put 30 kids in a classroom? Why do we still operate based off of this industrialized model? Where does funding come back? Where does funding impacted at? How do lines impact the funding? How do property tax impact funding? So all of these things need to be dismantled within the system without. There's things that we can do as educators within, but it's also pieces that we can handle without. What's in our student handbook? What's the policy on suspending kids? All those things that we really need to dig into, dismantle the system from within and without. And the second piece is just around leadership. Like we need people. I challenge myself as a Black educator and other Black and brown educators we can do leadership now, things that we can do now. Like when we go back to school, hopefully, just my opinion, we don't need to be back in schools no time soon in person. Like, that's just gonna throw that out there. I don't care what 45 say. I don't care what other staff say. Like we don't need to be in schools right now. It's not safe. It's not what's best for kids. But when we do go back, like what are we prioritizing? Are we really about to prioritize academics versus our mental health and just make sure that our kids are well and safe? Like we have to really do things now. So it's dismantling the system, and it's those leaders that are in schools and outside of schools that need to act.
Jamal, I want to stay with you here for a second. I want to ask you, kind of more specific to what you do, what roles do you think schools have in dismantling these systems and supporting our young men of color?
From within, as educators, we have to look at how we're operating. So like I said, what are those policies that we're really operating? What's in our student handbook? How are we suspending kids? How are we removing them from learning spaces? That's the role we have within the system. We have to change those things to create an anti-racist system. That's the role that school plays. On the outside, we need those agitators that are going to push policy, that are going to change policy. We as educators can do our part within, but we're going to need community support from the outside as well to really change the impact policy. That's where it's going to happen. So the role is of education. Once we get functioning, then we can really empower our kids. We can build a system that intentionally empowers them, give them skill sets that are transferable in real life versus this thing that we said that is important when it's really not. How is algebra helping me out for today right now? How is that empowering me? We know that this is a capitalist society, so how are we creating economic empowerment through our schools? So just different aspects that we can really give to our kids to empower them.
Makes sense. Very good, very good. So Demetrios kind of hit on this early in his comments about things that we can do and address now to fix this. So I kind of want to open this up and get to some more solutions-based talk. What is one thing right now that if we address it, could have the most value for young boys and men of color? And Demetrios, if you want to chime in again, you can. You were talking about policing, and that's something that needs to be fixed. If you have any other thoughts, you can chime in here with those too.
Yes, I think that is important. Well, I propose to think of oppositional thinking or oppositional thought, rather, because we are Black men, typically Black cishet men. They often like, to be opposite of everything. To be in a system is to be opposite, and you realize that through your Blackness. However, you have a position in which that being cis and being heterosexual, you play a role, even in your gender, that requires for you to do further oppositional thinking. Because you don't see the relations in the community. And we can't have a community when Black queer people and Black trans women are being harmed and being violated by Black cishet men. And I think it's important, if we're going to talk about transformation and have hard conversations, is that we address the internal transformation that needs to happen besides this systemic transformation, which is to say that Black cishet men are typically killing Black trans women. And this must be addressed because Black trans women, our life expectancy is 35. And this is a problem, and we have to discuss gender and sexuality. And I think mentoring is a role that plays a pivotal role into this. And it gets to asking, are you teaching your mentees about gender and sexuality? Are you having these conversations? Who do you have being a mentor in your companies and coaching? If it's just other cishet Black men who are just talking about their narrative. Also, like, what if your mentees are queer and become queer? How would they navigate the world? How would you know that? Are you educating yourself? Are you going to workshops? And you have to also realize the positionality. You have to talk about the position of Black men. You have to talk about Emmett Till and why it happened to Emmett Till. You have to analyze the hypersexual body of Black men. Because if you don't do that and you reduce everything to a solution, such as like a popular solution as financial literacy. If you reduce that, it becomes a problem because what happens when you don't get the home or the car that you wanted, but you can't explain why, is because you're Black. So you have to analyze your positionality within this world, and also your positionality as a cis heterosexual male, in which you can do harm too. And I think that's the most important thing, because do you know the names of Black trans women who have died over the last 3 weeks? A 17-year-old Black trans woman died last week. Do you know these names? But you know George Floyd, and you have to make the unthought people visible. And I think that's the most important thing, in order to create a community. And it gets me to question what Bell Hooks will call white supremacy patriarchy. You're playing a part of patriarchy because you're not doing that oppositional thinking of anti-Blackness. So you receive some type of advantages through patriarchy, and you have to address that as well. It can't always be this positive thinking. And I think that's the hard part, to address what's the problem within you as well. And I think that's the solution. That's the first, well, rather not the solution, but the first thing to get to in transformation.
Yeah, so making sure that we're bringing all groups into the table and recognizing differences and being intersectional about how we approach things, right? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What other thoughts do we have out here when it comes to one thing that could, that we should address that would help fix the lives of young Black men and men of color?
One thing I think, Brandon, that is like right now, like acute, is safety. We gotta address safety. Just right now, men of color, I think, and young Black men, they're concerned about their safety, especially in the urban community. Especially going back to school, if they go back to school, hopefully you guys don't. But with the pandemic, it's just safety. Can they walk to the corner store and be safe without getting shot by a stray bullet? Can they go to school and be safe? Can they be safe to express their feelings and thoughts, whatever they may be? Can they be emotionally safe? Can they be safe to walk down the street? Can they be safe to drive a car? Or are they worried about whether or not they're going to get robbed or shot by a brother or killed by a racist white cop? Can they be safe? And when you have young men with what we have going on right now in the world, with all these things, anxiety is high. Some people are going to have some traumatic emotional wounds from what we're dealing with right now. And the question is, can we keep people safe enough so that they can calm themselves down enough emotionally so that they can think rationally? And for our young Black men, we need them to be creative in their thinking. We need them to be innovative in their thinking. And it's very difficult to be innovative and creative with high anxiety. If you don't feel safe, you're not going to be able to study well. If you gotta feel like you gotta pack the gat just to get to school, just so you can make it there, then it's difficult for your highest potential to come out and your highest productivities to manifest. So I think safety is a really tough one.
Yeah, and kind of to that point too, mental health, you know, talk about anxiety. I think a lot of our kids are dealing with anxiety, depression. You know, it's going so undiagnosed. And it's leading to things that, you know, if we just nip it in the bud and talk about it early and address it early, maybe we don't have to worry about that. And I'm glad you mentioned safety in general. I mean, certain kids have a privilege of being able to be in a safe community. Like, what kids have the right to be safe? It should be a right for every kid to be safe, right? But not every kid feels that way. It's super important. Jermaine, Jamal, any thoughts here on one thing that could be addressed immediately to help our young men of color?
Well, I'm going to spin it from a slightly different angle, and certainly I agree with what everyone has said so far, with what Brother Demetrios has said and Brother Joshua. But one of the words that I will introduce is a simple four-letter word that we oftentimes do not hear in this context of talking about mentorship and young men of color. And I think that we need to reintroduce this word in our society, this word in our families, and even with our mentees. And that four-letter word is love. I'm not sure that our young men knows what it means to love themselves. And surely I'm not sure that we teach them what it means to love each other and love others. One of the things that I, can appreciate about Brother Vondell is that, he has this passion to always bring everyone together. But, as Black men, we are taught the spirit of competition. So, we're taught that, if Brother Vondell is doing it this way, I have to do it a little bit better. Or if Brother Jamal is doing it this way, I got to watch him, I have to do it a little bit better. Or, what can I do to, be a little bit different than Brother Brandon? Whereas if we're all in this together, and that's a phrase that we've adopted at I Am a Gentleman, we are in this together, we must learn how to love ourselves so that we can love each other. And I think that once we begin to display love, in the appropriate ways at the appropriate levels, then I think those external forces will begin to disintegrate, because we have built a community where not only do we love ourselves, we love each other. And the strength of love and unity is so profound that external negative forces cannot break the wall down that we have built, that has just been so infused with this, with this concept called love.
Nice. I don't know if you have anything, Jamal, but I wanted to bring this up too. Does anyone think that media might have a role to play here in how our young men are portrayed? I'm in the media, and I definitely think that there's a history there. What do you guys think?
To add on, I definitely do think that all this that we talked about before is trauma. It's trauma related. So definitely healing that needs to take part in our communities for our young men, for our young ladies as well, but definitely for our young men. But as far as the media, that's something that's always been like this narrative of what it is to be Black has always been there. I mean, as talked about it in schools, like our Black girls and our Black boys are criminalized in schools. So this media shift of how Black people are portrayed locally, also on an international level, like what do they see when they look at Black faces on the news coming from America? So that's something that's always not that hasn't been in our favor. That narrative hasn't played well for us. So yeah, that's definitely a big part. But I think that we have to recreate that narrative within our own communities, how we empower like our mentees and our young bulls, as we call them in Philly, like how we really empower and uplift them with mantras and just encouraging and building up their inner self. I think that's big. So we have to create that counter narrative as much as possible to combat what's going on in the media.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in and kind of add to that too, Brandon. I think people posted, I'm not sure if she made it or not. I haven't done my research, but maybe Janelle Monáe made comments along the line of we need to destroy the foundations of hip hop that have objectified women. And I said, it's easy to say destroy the artists and not say destroy the vultures who make millions off of the artists, right? The culture vultures, right? And so I think that is what Professor Kende talks about when he talks about the worst Black on Black crime is integrated, is internal, is integrated racism, so internalized racism, right? Where we become the victims and the oppressors of our own people who are victims, who unintentionally are oppressors, right? But I think media plays a very important part. I give you an example. While across the city last weekend on Saturday in the afternoon, there were people being shot, young people being shot. Well, also, there were people downtown celebrating DuSable and marching for that. And, you know, we had a mentoring program going on in conjunction with CHAMPS in my hood, my block, my city, in KWO, where there was something positive going on. But if you look at the media reports of what's being presented, we only going to get the negative, because at the end of the day, when it comes to media news outlets, negativity sells. That's what gets the rating. There are people every day, and I'm sure there's some sick demonic person who's got some kind of gambling group betting on how many people will get killed in Chicago on the weekend, right? So media plays a very important role. And I think when you have media personalities like, you know, Fox's Anita Padilla, when she tries to raise this positive awareness, she's almost attacked. Like, wait a minute, we don't want to talk about solutions, Anita. We want you to report on how many people are killed, not how to stop the killing. Like, what are you doing? And so I think media plays a very important role, because everything we learn is from media. I didn't want to be the cow. I didn't want to be the Indian. I wanted to be the cowboy. I got that from my grandfather's Westerns, right? That taught me that I want to be two things when I grow up. Three things. I want to be a cowboy. I want to be a police officer. And I want to be white, because that's what I see as progression in America. That's what I saw as a kid, just based off TV. I used to have dreams that Sonny and Cher were my parents, because that's what I saw as the ideal parent, because I didn't have that model in my house. And so white people made parenting look great on TV. They made it look beautiful. They made it look like this is what a stable home looks like. And that's part of what I wanted, because that's what I saw. Until the Cosbys came along, that is.
Can I jump in real quick, guys?
Go ahead, Mondale.
So that's a great question. And I think we have to be aware of social constructs and how social constructs are built, right? And the cultural discourse through media creates what we call narratives through storytelling. And when you talk about Black bodies, and Demetrios hit on it a little bit, it's this stigma that because I'm born, like they do the Dow test, right? And the Dow test is they put a white Dow and a black Dow, and then they survey children to figure out who's going to choose what Dow. And by and large, they choose what? The white Dow. These are social constructs that have been built. So I'm curious to hear from you, Brandon, as a person who's in the media and as a professional, but happen to be an African-American man. What do you see your role being to fight against that cultural discourse and change the narrative? I'm just interested in hearing from you.
Yeah, I'm happy to weigh in there. It's a heavy topic. It's a tough topic, because it's tough for one person alone to make a change, but you keep chipping away at things and you can. I got to start with the reason why things are the way they are. The media and the way it's kind of brutalized Black bodies and created perceptions around Black bodies and profited off of that is because of white supremacy. It's because the people in charge of media organizations are white. And they've had no incentive financially to change course. It sells, like you said. Seeing reports and seeing mugshots of Black people, that sells. And so the key thing is you need voices inside newsrooms to push back. You need people that are not going to be yes men. That challenge comes about. It becomes a challenge when it's your livelihood, right? And you pushing back could mean that's the end of your job, right? So it's a tricky balance. But many of us, I can't speak for every Black person, who works in this industry, but many of us put our morals and our race before our profession. And so if we see something that we think crosses a line, it's our responsibility to stand up and speak out. We need more of us in newsrooms to do that. And so we need more Black journalists. We need more black producers, editors. We need more people looking over things. When you see a story where it's supposed to be let's say, there was a story of a girl, a Black girl. She was shot and killed by somebody. And the photo they chose on the website was a picture of her with a phone case that resembled a gun. Why? But if you take a similar situation and swap that girl for a white woman, it's going to be a nice, smiling picture and presentable. Why was that decision made? It's because there wasn't a Black eye on that, a Black person viewing it. You need more Black people in those positions. And that's where the change is going to happen. So I see my role as being that person that's supposed to be responsible to my community, be a voice for my community, and be the one that pushes back when I need to. I've paid the price in some respects in different places I've worked. I've had battles. I'm one of those people, though, that when you argue with me, you got to come with the facts or else you end up looking stupid. And so I've been able to fact and debate my way around actually getting fired. But you gotta have that courage to push the line. And so that's my role. I do it every day. I think that at our station, I think we do a great job. But I'd be lying if I said there weren't times where I've had to push. That happens, and we have to keep doing it, and we can't let up. So that's what my role is. And I'm glad you asked that, Vondale, because I think that's a great pivot to what I wanted to ask the rest of you is like, where do you think you play a factor in your respective careers in making this change for our young men of color? What role do you play in your career? Anybody can jump in here, but you all come from different backgrounds and perspectives. And I think it takes numerous industries and people from numerous industries working together to make gradual change, right? Because it's more than just a media issue. It's more than just an education issue. It's a lot of different things, right?
I believe that, one, I want to touch on the last question a little bit. So I believe that we also, a little push, let's also question the positive media images of Black people, particularly Black men, in which we see, for example, Obama or Martin Luther King, men are in leadership. It's always like an image of a neoliberal patriarch, in which is to be heterosexual, is to embody some type of whiteness of leadership and embody manhood that is patriarchal. And everyone, patriarchy is bad, and it subjects queer people and Black women to such violence. And I think that also you have to realize, even in these positive images, it kind of like, there's kind of like this dichotomy where it's this bad image and this positive image. One is to what Fanon analysis would say is to reiterate whiteness or white supremacy, or to attain some type of white supremacy. And the other one is the imago of the Negro, to be a criminal. And I think we have to question both. And even in patriarchy and masculinity, what happens to the Black queer kid who doesn't want to be neither, or the feminine Black queer kid who wants to be a hairdresser, who wants to style, who wants to do different things, or feminine the Black man who wants to be president? What happens to them and their image and their inability to possess such position in life because of their queerness? We have to push back on all images, so images can be disrupted. So then we can have our own individual image. And I think that's the best way to think of media, rather than some type of positive image, because that's questionable in itself. And I think that my job is to open, with my hope to be a professor, I want to open the discussion and research the ways in which queerness and Black queer people navigate the world, and how they are silent. And for other Black cishet people, they are silent, and that reproduces violence. And to be silent is to be harmful, and to be silent is to accept death, and to accept death is to accept Black death. To be silent is to be violent. And it's not a thing of I accept queer people. You have to realize, even in acceptance, what are you saying about yourself? That you're in some type of power, that you own some type of power to accept another being. And you have to realize that you have some type of power through your heterosexuality and being mass presenting. So this can't be a thing of like, you know, this queer kid is talking about queerness, you know, it's another day, I accept it. You have to put in the work, you have to research, you have to do the work to make other people's lives exist. This is not an identity, because that would just say like your Blackness is identity. This is a part of who people are. This is how I navigate the world through my queerness and my Blackness, and it must be acknowledged. So yeah.
And Demetrios, you were preaching today, brother. Preaching. Really appreciate what you're saying there, man. Powerful stuff. Joshua, I want to ask you about the role of spirituality, faith leaders, and that you and your industry play in finding solutions for this stuff. What's your role?
Well, me, I'm a mentor and coach. I coach and mentor men in the communities I serve. I've been a mentor for over 10 years. Well, you already talked about me being a professional counselor and life coach. Last night, I had the privilege of seeing one of my mentees walk across the stage and graduate from college with a degree in criminal justice. And he said that, you know, I was his number one mentor. I mentored him since he was probably 13 or so. And I was the only Black man present to celebrate and support him at graduation. So that's what I'm doing. I'm meeting with Black men, particularly I support Black young men who don't have father roles in their home. That's really my niche. I try to step into those spaces, support financially, you know, mentor, teach life skills. That's pretty much what I'm doing at least. As far as expanding to our community at large, I think that there's three things we need to work on. Competent leadership. I think we need to work on continuous research and development and adequate funding. Okay. I'd like to point out that when it comes to competent leadership and mentoring right now, I think in front of us, we have a great example of Mr. Miles, but he can't be by himself. I mean, certainly every man on this panel is supporting him, and we need that. But I think we should acknowledge what he has done in the mentoring space as a leader, and what the CHAMPS organization has done as well. So hats off to you, Vondale, for what you're doing. He is one of our competent mentoring leaders, but we need more. We need more, you know. I think that's important. So that's what I'm doing, is just mentoring young men. In spirituality, I teach all my programs. I teach the Bible to the young boys, and I've seen phenomenal turnaround. I've seen young men come to me. They were in a slow special ed class. The teacher said that they would never score anything higher than a C. After a year of mentoring, A and B honor roll. After 2 years of mentoring, all A honor roll. You know, so just these are the types of things I've been doing, just teaching the basic things about honoring your mother and father. I think that's the core principle growing up. Whoever is caring for you that is good in your life as a young Black man, no matter where you are, I want to encourage you. Honor that person, whether it's a foster parent or whoever's loving you, like back to what Jermaine talked about, you got to honor where you're coming from and who's giving you love. One of the worst evils in the world is to be evil to someone who's doing good to you. That's one of the greatest evils. And so I think that one of my roles is to preach and teach and mentor young men about the spiritual principles, that universal principle that controls social interaction and being productive and successful in society. There's some principles you can't get around without, no matter what you come up with, no matter how intelligent you are, you can't get around honoring where you came from. You can't get around honoring people who did good to you. You can never reach your highest maximum potential and dishonor those who help you along. It just doesn't work like that. Joshua, so these are the things that, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, we're running out of time here. So I want to quickly get in Jermaine and Jamal really quick.
Yeah.
What role do you two play when it comes to, improving the lives of young men of color in your industries?
Yeah, so I believe as a leader, I believe as a mentor that my job is to really provide the young men with three things, and they can simply be summed up, by three words: hope, help, and healing. I try to provide them with hope, letting them know that even though we're living in dark days, that there is a brighter day ahead. I try to provide them with help, making sure that they have the basic necessities of what it means to live life. And then I try to provide them with healing, letting them know that even though they may have come from imperfect circumstances, that they can be an overcomer. And a part of their being an overcomer is to help someone else who has come from similar circumstances and pull someone else up as well. So hope, help, and healing is really what my mission is to provide with the young men that are under my tutelage.
Jamal, what about you?
Yeah, I'm definitely talking about as for education, doing our part to dismantle the system. But I think doing that too is just really connecting and motivating with our kids. Beyond, like, we have to see past the walls that they put up. We have to see past the trauma and these outward appearances. Oh, they're loud, they're disrespectful. See past that. How do we harness that energy and turn it into something positive? So we have to see past these walls that a lot of our kids put up. We also have to find a way to continue to connect. We know that a lot of times how we teach has been colonized. We know that it's not the best way for our kids to learn in this flat industrialized model. So how do we really build those connections and really connect with kids and really give them curriculum and materials that they can access and that can empower them? So we just keep chipping away with that and really connecting with our kids on a deeper level, more so than just as a student in my classroom, but as a person, as another human.
Thank you so much, everybody. We have, do we have any Facebook questions, Vondale? For Anthony?
Sorry about that. I was just responding to somebody on Facebook. Maybe a quick few seconds to answer this and just quick thoughts that come to mind. How can parents, whether you're single home or dual home families, engage their young people who seem disconnected from the family structure? 30 seconds from everybody.
I'll say parents can stop trying to attain a family structure, because family structure is a patriarchal belief from the plantation. And you have to question family structure in itself, and to be mutual and to learn the individual of your child. I feel like it's the best way of parenting, rather than saying, I'm a man, I own this house, this is how it's supposed to be, to families. And even in a single home of a single Black woman mother, there's often a misogynistic term of like, the kid will be gay if he has a single home. And that's not true, because many of my queer friends have homes with their mom and father. So dismantling the system of a family structure from the plantation, I feel like is the best solution.
All right, somebody
30
else.
seconds out. Yeah, 30 seconds. I'll say this: seeking help. Come and see me. I'm a family life coach. That's what I do. I meet with families and help them re-engage with their teenagers and connect with them on deeper levels. So if you're interested, come see me. Check me out at jmlifecoach.com and come check out my services. I'll help you with that.
All right, Jermaine.
Yeah, I think we have to understand each other's roles within family. I think that everyone plays a role. I think parents play a role. I think that children play a role. And I think that for so long, or, for so many years now, that the lines have gotten blurred. So I think in order for family to remain family, I think we have to understand each other's roles and how my role relates to your role, et cetera, within a family.
Jamal.
Yeah, I think that we just established routines. Like I was thinking, just with our kids, just connecting with them, whether that's a movie night, whether that's actually having dinner together, and turning off cell phones and those things. Like really just having those traditions and routines in place, building time, connecting with our kids on their level, wherever that may be. You might have to jump on the game with them, but just getting them involved in establishing some traditions.
All right, excellent. Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Oh, you want me to weigh in?
Oh, yes, sir. I kind of put it around real quick, right? I'll move into the moderator role.
How the tables turn. It's a tough one. I'm in no way an expert on this, but I think that kid back into that structure, right? I think there's it doesn't always have to be a traditional type of, idealistic way of doing things, right? If they need a father figure or they need a male figure, seek that out. There's brothers out here that are seeking to provide that, and you can make that happen. So I think that's the solution right there to that question.
Great. Excellent. Yeah, man. Thanks everybody for feedback. Thank everybody for the comments. Brother Polk, man, thank you for moderating. Man, I've been watching. This is an honor for me. Been watching you, for a couple of years now, man. It's just been great. Vondell, man, there are no words for you. So the poem that you heard me write earlier, I wrote that in 2014, right when CHAMPS was getting off the ground. And so that's how I got involved with young Black men, CHAMPS. So when my friend was asking me the question of how long you gonna chase corporate dollars, Vondell Singleton shows up at Gary Comer College Prep, and we have not looked back since. And sometimes I was just able to come and serve food. I would just walk in to serve food, clean up, and I would be out. It's just showing up. You know what I'm saying? It's just showing up, man. And that's the work and heart that I know that Vondell has, and he can't do the work alone. And we're working on some things to kind of spread this out far reaching. While COVID has caused some issues, it's also presented some great opportunities to think outside of the box to expand our reach from Chicago to meet with kids digitally across the country and potentially across the world, right? So grateful to have everyone on. Thank everyone for their comments and their feedback. Demetrios, you challenged me in ways tonight there were things I never even considered until you brought some things up. So I thank you for your passion. I thank everybody for your comments. Jermaine, I'm gonna have to get with you on the wardrobe, brother, because I need some, I need to get out of these t-shirts, man, for real.
Hey, hold on,
man, Jermaine. Hey, Vondell said he wakes up and goes to bed that, man.
Hey, speaking of which,
never a day off, sir, as a gentleman.
I want Jermaine to go ahead and share your announcement. We have a very important partnership coming up. So Jermaine, if you can just go ahead and share it, please.
Absolutely. We are in this together, and I'm so grateful again for this platform and for Brother Vondell and his vision. On next Wednesday, our foundation are partnering with other organizations across the city of Chicago, and we are having an event that is called The Cry, Hearing the Voices of Chicago's Young People. It is an event in collaboration with Chicago Public Schools, the Chicago Police Department, CHAMPS Male Mentoring, the Firehouse Male Mentoring Academy, and we're going to be meeting inside of the Chicago Police headquarters, hearing from our young people, asking them what they think is the solution to the violence in our city, what they feel their role is to the violence in our city, and really how they believe that they have been affected negatively and positively. Last weekend in Chicago, there were 87 people shot. And unfortunately, several of those shot and killed and fatal were our young people. And we want to make sure that we give our young people a platform nationally, regionally, and locally to share what they believe their role is. So again, it's open to 50 people. It's by invitation only. The information is on our website at iamagentleman.org. However, even though it's only open to 50 people, it will be broadcast live on our Facebook page. It will be broadcast live on several news outlets. Again, hearing the voice of our young people in the city of Chicago. It's called The Cry, Wednesday, July 15th at 6 p.m.
Thank you so much, Jermaine. We appreciate that, and we're really proud to be a part of that conversation as well. So make sure if you're interested to reach out to Brother Jermaine. If you can't get a hold of Jermaine, reach out to me or one of us, and we'll make sure that we get you registered for that very important conversation and event. So again, guys, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. I'm going to go back to my camera here. So thank you guys for tuning in. It was a powerful conversation that we all had. So again, make sure you share this link and you get this conversation not only happening in your community, but make sure people like Demetrios, people like Brandon, who's in media, People like Jamal, who's in education, Jermaine, who's on the front lines mentoring, Josh, if you need a counselor, that's what he's here for. Reach out. Don't hesitate to reach out. Reverend Briscoe, who's a part of the church, the community, the education, the technology. So we have answers for you. The last thing that I want to tell you, we had a young man on our virtual camp today, and he shared candidly about the self-mutilation that he was doing with slitting his wrists and how times he wanted to commit suicide. And I told him, I said, brother, that will be the last resort with this team that you have, the support system that you have with CHAMPS. So make sure you're reaching out, you're talking with individuals. And we know it's been a very tough, tumultuous time in terms of the depression that people have experienced, in terms of just like everything that people are going through with the deaths. It's been so many murders happening with people that we know. So again, I just want you to know that we are here to support you fully. We love you. And until next week, remember, you're born to win in every situation in life. Peace.
All right, Vondale, are we done being live?
Give me one quick second.